over the years, particularly recently, many people have asked why I always wear black. Sometimes it's a criticism, sometimes it's a legitimate question. Been told I look like a mortician, priest, that kind of thing. Some people even say it's distracting from the videos. With this video, I'm going to share why, because there's a very, very good reason. But something you kind of grow to love or hate about me is I always got a story to tell. And this story begins when I first went out to take a job as the head of school of a small Christian school in Centerview, Missouri, JCCA. And the moment I walked into that building, it was in a little tiny town of Centerview, which had a big meth problem. There's only really a couple hundred people in that whole town, mostly broken down trailers. When I went for the job interview, as I drove around town, I actually didn't see a single human the whole time. Kind of seemed like I was in an episode of The Twilight Zone. When I went into the school and interviewed, it was a broken down old school. It was the old Centerview grade school that was purchased many years ago by the Christian school, and they've been making it their Christian school, but it was very broken down. But I knew when I drove home from that interview with the school board that I was going to get that job and that was the job God wanted me to have. I just knew it. Didn't want that job. There's all sorts of other jobs I wanted, but I knew that was the one. So I actually even quit interviewing, even though I wasn't offered the job. Well, I offered the job. I went in the summertime, and I hadn't met a human yet, and I just opened the door and kind of went in and was looking around, found my office, and there was nothing in there but a fold-up table with a bunch of boxes of files on it and a telephone. And I went out in the hall and grabbed a chair from the kind of the waiting area in the lobby, and that was my desk chair. It was actually my desk chair for 3 years. But it was something about that place. Something was wrong with it. It was very evil. You could sense a presence. So just, you could smell it almost. It was scary. I even told my wife, I'm a little scared to go out there. I don't know how to describe it. It's just there's demons or something. It's just there's an odor, but it's not an odor. It's just something's here. I hadn't even met a person yet. So all I'd met, I hadn't seen a human in town. I only met the school board. But I was very fearful to go out there. And I communicated that for the first couple weeks. Is I'm not comfortable with going out there. Something's in that place. And what I discovered in the years working there, that it was one of the biggest spiritual battles I'd ever confronted in my life. I don't know what it is about that particular little building, but it is very, very important to God. Very important to Him. I don't know why. I couldn't even begin to tell you why, but it was very important to Him. Through the years of warfare, at one point, we had a revival, and at the end of it, people were literally, one girl said she saw angels pushing demons out of the building. And at the end of the revival, we were all kind of praying. We all circled around praying. And I heard birds flying around the gym. And I looked up, and there weren't any birds, but I clearly heard birds flying around the gym. And I didn't say anything about it because I didn't want to seem crazy. And then I heard somebody else say, "Do you guys hear birds?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." There were literally invisible songbirds flying around that gym. More so, Pastor Dale at the Centerview, the Church of Hope up on the hill from there, he just called me one day. He said, "I don't know what it is, but God told me, we need to be like Jericho. We need to march around this entire town for 7 days and 7 times on the 7th day." And that was even in the wintertime. This isn't a march uphill in the snow or anything, but I met Dale there every morning, and we would walk around the entire city doing a lap, starting and ending at that school. And then on the 7th day, we did 7 laps. And I actually didn't even think I could do it. Near the end, I kind of think I crossed a line with how far I physically can go. And then we got back to school, and we all just let out a shout and a cheer. And I believe that became a sanctuary in that moment. But in the heart of all that fighting, in the heart of it, there was a point where I just felt beat up. Like if you said, people would see me at church, they'd say, "Mark, how are you doing?" I'd say, "Oh, I'm great, I'm fine. I'm in a suit and stuff," so they wouldn't know otherwise. But what was going on the inside is I felt like I was literally standing there with two swords covered in spiritual blood and just exhausted is how I felt. Fighting up against people for terrible reasons. I've had people threaten to beat me up there. I've had people threaten, I've actually had the cops show up because somebody it's a long story. I've had threats of lawsuits. I've had threats of burning the school down, and these are all coming from Christians. Never had a problem from a Muslim or a Jew or an atheist or an anti-theist. But the Christians of that place, they wanted to see it burn. But I knew it was important to God. And there was one night in the middle of all of that I was asleep. And somebody hit me on the foot, and they said, "Get up." And I remember it, but I was like, just still trying to, half asleep, couldn't even get up at all, just eyes shut, like, no way am I getting up. Somebody hit me on the foot a second time in a very loud, like, "Get up." And I woke up, and the lights were on, but the lights weren't on. And there were two men standing above my bed, but I was not afraid of them. I knew who they were, and I knew why they were there. And they were both dressed in black and red, similar to a Roman soldier's outfit. One was tall with short hair, and one was short with long hair. Or vice versa, the tall one had long hair. One was tall with long hair, and one was short with short hair. And I was talking to the tall one, and he was talking to me, but we weren't speaking. But I could hear him just like you can hear me, and he could hear me too. And I said, "Protect my family." And he said, "Well, that's why we're here." And I said, "I'm trying my hardest." And he said, "I know." And then he looked at me and he said, "Never forget this." And then I fell into a deep sleep. Now, some might say, "Well, you were dreaming," but I think that's why he hit me to wake me up and yelled, "Wake up." Hit me twice. The lights were on. I was awake in that moment. There's no doubt in my mind. I was very conscious in that moment. And starting about a week after that, I realized I'm getting up every day and I'm going to fight. I remember telling my kids, they'd say, "How's your week going, Dad?" I'm like, "I just fight. I fight. That's all I do. I just fight with people all day. I just fight that person, fight that person, fight that, fight that, fight that." Constant worrying about money, constant worrying about who's trying to attack and burn down the school. It was awful. But that was my way of recognizing that that's how you get up, and I just call it silly. I don't know what it was, but it became who I was. That I was going to remind myself that I'm getting up and I'm dressing for battle. Those two men, those two angels, they looked beat up and worn down. I don't think they got to me very easily, or at least they've been off doing stuff. They did not look like they were tailored and just woke up and showered. They looked a little beaten up. And there's a spiritual war going on that's so real. It wasn't even about the people I was fighting with. It was about demonic possession, because if it's important to God, it's clearly important to the enemy as well. So every day I made that choice. I would wear black and one other color, and that was it. I was going to go black and red, but I thought everybody'd think I was satanic if I wore a black suit with a red tie every day. So I just went black and one other color. It was my uniform. It was my military uniform. We're in a war. Every day. When I retired from there, I kind of took a break. I relaxed. I don't know if you noticed, but you would have seen me in black and one other color for a long time, and then there was a period where it was breaking. I needed the peace. I felt like a soldier coming back from war, but the spiritual version of it. I was beaten and destroyed almost. But that's why. And now this war is back on. I'm back in the fight. That's why. Because we're to gather the remnant together. It's why. That's why I wear black. I'm sorry if it's distracting. There's war to be done. It's my way, my silly little way of reminding myself when I get dressed in the morning that you're not just going off to do worldly things. There is a war taking place and you are walking straight into it. You're either a victim of it or you're engaged in it. And all those people that I fought with, they were victims in it. They were victims in it. Christians just defiling themselves. That's why I wear black. If you see me in plaid, I'm taking a break. But if you see me in black and one other color, it's just my little way of reminding myself there's war to be had here. And it's getting hotter every day. So, hope this answers your question. If you like the video, click like and subscribe. If you feel called to support this channel with Patreon, that link is below. But the most important part of this channel has always been that we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.